Hello everyone, today we had Speed release into Marvel Snap, and Speed is a 3-cost, 3 power with the ongoing ability +1 power for each turn in which you spent all of your energy. And so this is going to reward you for playing efficiently, or at least energy-wise, playing efficiently. And so in most of my games, he ends up being a 3-8 or 3-9, which is not anything to really snuff at. It is a decent amount of power, but the biggest thing to remember is that for the 3-cost slot, he is facing off against some really stiff opposition. He's going up against Loki. He's going up against Nocturne. He's going up against Cassandra Nova, Copycat, and all of those are fantastic. We have some incredible 3-cost cards, and Speed, although he has good value, does he find himself into homes outside of what was already good, just as a decent value drop? I do think that he has some pretty nice uses. Every single time I've played him, he has been anywhere from 3-7 to 3-9, 3-10, depending on how efficiently I was able to play. But with most of my decks, I'm using most of my energy every single turn anyways, and so usually he is going to be pretty decently sized, but he's not going to win the game by himself. He's not going to be a Sebastian Shaw that just brings home a lane. He is going to be something that is good value, but you need good backup to be able to win the rest of the board. And so with that, we are going to be running a Kitty Pryde Angela Athena. I know it is very beaten down, but I do think that this one has a really good place in the current meta that we're finding ourselves in. We're seeing a lot more Arishem, a little bit less Sandman. We can still kind of outcurve a Sandman some of the time, but it becomes a lot more difficult to do so. If you're seeing a lot of Sandman, definitely drop the Angela Athena Kitty Pryde stuff and go with something else. But if you're not, if you're seeing like the Arishem, the Clog, and all of the stuff that I'm seeing more often than that, we have this deck, which has performed phenomenally well. It is sitting at around a 65% win rate over a sample size of about 20 games, which is still a relatively low sample size, but much bigger than I give most new release cards. And so on Speed's release, I didn't find anything perfect for him. A lot of things just felt okay. It didn't really feel like he improved upon it. This one, he feels really solid. We have Hope Summers to give us additional energy to curve into our Gwen pool. We have the Elsa Bloodstone, which is really surprisingly pretty good. In the early game, we can stack our cards into one lane, into spreading them out across the rest of the game after we get an Elsa Bloodstone, after we scale the Kitty Pryde in the Elsa Bloodstone cap lane for maybe 3 turns. We have the Gwen pool to buff the rest of the cards in our hand, and can just explode so much power that it's sometimes gonna surprise your opponent with how much you can do and how quickly. Now, you will notice that this deck doesn't have any kind of counterplay. We want to focus on what we want to do. We have the scaling pieces. We have the Mysterio, which is fantastic if it gets hit with Gwenpool, or even if it's played out early, has that kind of mind game component of where is that 4 power going to lie. It discounts our Sasquatch heavily and our Mockingbird. And then with the Kate Bishop, we can discount our Mockingbird a little bit further as well. And then we can really explode some of those big power plays on the last turn alongside Elsa Bloodstone buffing up our Kitty Pryde. Sometimes we're going to have a 10 power Kitty Pryde, which is much closer to how it used to be when it was originally released. And it can be surprising. The deck is an incredible amount of fun. Definitely check it out if you have these pieces. If you don't have Sasquatch, you could do something like maybe Havoc, but it becomes a little bit risky in that risk reward of when do you drop it, when do you not. You could go something like Cole Obsidian as a replacement, but we only have the Kitty Pryde and the Kate Bishop arrows, so maybe you go Crossbones, but that one has some restrictions and downside of its own. But we're going to go ahead and end the deck explanation. We're going to jump over into a couple of games. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, next up we have rank 133 LN. The first location is Wakanda, so we could throw out maybe our bigger cards there. We're going up against Arishem, and it could just be like a wave of Arishem, but honestly, it's starting to feel like Thanos, where more games than not, I'm versing into the Arishem line. It's not super, I gotta tell you, it's not super fun. I don't have an immediate problem with the deck. What I have a problem with is how common it's becoming, even after the round of nerfs. Super common still, and it can still do some incredible things. So it's not like it doesn't win or people would drop it, but we'll see. That's why Cassandra Nova still remains strong as she is. Let's go Athena into Kitty Pryde. Either that or Athena into maybe an Acid Arrow. We'll try to clutter them up in Castle Blackstone some. They go high Evo, which was generated by Arishem, and then that bounces over into Castle Blackstone, which is super fortunate for them, unfortunate for us, because it doesn't mean they have the extra energy from Castle Blackstone here. So we could do a 4-power Sasquatch. We could always do Nocturne move, Kitty Pride. We have Mysterio on 5. Maybe it's Mysterio plus speed. That'll make us, or give us a cheap, wow. It'll give us a cheap Sasquatch. And only 3 cost cards or lower into this 23 power monstrosity of a lane. Hope Summers. Do we ever push for it? I don't think we do. Hope Summers, Real Mysterio left. We have the ability to move the Nocturne either into Wakanda or into Aunt May's. So the Proxima is the solo drop in right. We have the means to put out quite a bit of power. So we could go 18 extra mid. So we could fight for mid, but that takes away just about all of our resources. But honestly, I think they assume mid is a win, so I think they play into Aunt May's. So I think our answer becomes this. I was wrong. The Mockingbird. Can we beat 13 power? We have 10, 14. I think we beat it by 1 over there. With the Real Mysterio getting the highlight. My goodness, so incredibly close, but we were still able to find a way to win. My gut read from LN was that they would fight for Aunt May's, assuming the big house was beyond win, beyond approach. But they did not go that direction, and we just barely squeak out the win. We'll take the 4. Let's jump over into the next. All right, next up we have Jake from State Farm. The first location is Warrior Falls. We have Nocturne to be able to potentially change it if we are looking like we're lacking over there. Another Arishem deck. I know in the last match, I said how frequent we're running into Arishem. It feels like the same thing. With a turn 1 snap, I always suspect a Loki, and there's just not much you can do into like the Loki, and so I'm just going to retreat for 1. They can have it. We'll rinse and repeat. All right, next up we have Saber. The first location is Westview. Let's go ahead and throw our Kitty Pride over there. We can do Angela second. Maybe we go Kate Bishop so that we have additional resources and we benefit our Mockingbird or reduce the cost of it. We'll see. And so they skip on turn number 1. Machine World is a little bit tricky for us. I honestly think we go Angela, Hope Summers, and then we go like maybe Kitty Pride, Kate Bishop into the Angela lane. That way we start scaling our energy and we can really flood it on the final couple of turns. And so 2 cards over in the left, the Nico into movement. And so they get the Rocket. It's going to be a bounce style deck, which is very tough to estimate where their power is eventually going to fall, especially without some kind of counter in like Cosmo or Shadow King or something similar. It becomes very, very tough to navigate. We can go Hope Summers, Kitty Pride, we can do Mysterio, or we can go ahead and do the Kate Bishop. I think we do Kate Bishop for now. That way we have additional resources. Benefiting our speed becomes kind of tough too. Maybe it's not a bounce deck and more so just okay, it is a bounce deck. But every deck these days are going to be running Loki because he is such a strong card in most situations that you get your opponent's resources, so you get information and you can out position them. Just sometimes exactly what you need. The Nidavellir location, I hope they don't have a Shang-Chi. My goodness, do we hope they don't have a Shang-Chi. Let's go Elsa Bloodstone into Real Mysterio left. Then Kitty Pride left as well. These are always free, so we can always use them at any point. Mysterio coming down will discount our Mockingbird. And so wherever they play Rocket this turn is fine. Rocket into Beast can do some pretty good things. Shang-Chi is going to be our detriment here. We do have the real Mysterio left. The fake one mid, so it's going to clutter their hand a little bit with a little bit of junk. And then the fake one over to the right as well. Our Kitty Pryde gets the Elsa Bloodstone scaling, which is good to see. Nico into Speed, and so they're changing Elysium because they don't want us to have that extra energy into Mirror Dimension, which is not going to transfer into anything. They get Iceman an additional time here, and so it now hurts our Mockingbird a touch. We get Speed as well. We have a plethora of energy, so I think we do something like Kitty Pryde. We do maybe Speed of our own. And then do we ever throw them a basic arrow bone? Depending on what we draw next, it might be worthwhile to play the extra. And we're going to be able to scale it by 3. And so on turn 5, let's see what they end up going with as their big play. We have our 8 power speed, which we're not able to use our energy efficiently here because of how much scaling we have. The Shadow King comes in and offsets our Angela. Unfortunate. It offsets our Kitty Pryde as well. We can go big into Mockingbird, Nocturne, Grapple Arrow. And probably not going to be enough. But we can hope. There is always hope. They don't know where the real Mysterio is. So I actually think we pivot. I think we go Nocturne, Mockingbird, Grapple. And see if that holds it down. So our speed buffs up there, their speed buffs up, but they did have a space to play an additional card. We'll see how big they go. Let's see if they respect the Mysterio in that lane and what it could potentially be. And so our Grapple Arrow, our Nocturne gets buffed up courtesy of the Elsa Bloodstone. Just the Rocket over there, which we couldn't play. So an interesting line. The Hope Summers, the Angela does get some scaling. The Mysterio, and then finishing with our own golden card back, Phoenix Force basic arrow. What an interesting final turn. Could they have won it with anything else? I guess they didn't have anything big, so they went with Rocket to make sure that they had enough to beat a potential or tie a potential Mysterio. We'll take it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Sir Rolk. The first location is the Strange Academy. We have Quicksilver coming down. And so they're probably going to be running some kind of Wiccan deck. It seems like Rolk is really enjoying the Wiccan line. So Quicksilver Domino is what they had in mind. So we can go Hope Summers into Gwynpool, or Hope Summers into Thena, Kate Bishop, potentially. Depending on if we think, oh wow, they cap it out with the Raft. So they're running a greedy Surfer build. And it does look like it's going to pay off for them this time. But we have the rest of the game to be able to scale here and try and overshadow that Brood line, which was awfully Brood of them. Let's go Gwynpool. We're going to hit a handful of cards. We could also go, actually, let's go Thena. No, I'm going to go ahead and go Gwynpool. Next turn, we can allow our Thena to scale. They go Gwynpool as well on 4. And then the free Apocalypse over into the hub. So that lane becomes pretty tough to deal with. But we have the benefit of being able to drop some of our big power late in the game. Potentially. We go Kitty Pryde. Maybe we just go something like... Maybe we go Kate Bishop, Thena to make them think that we're potentially pressuring that right lane. And then we just try to bombard the left instead. So they hit an Iron Lad, which hits speed. So they're awfully quick with that Iron Lad. Ends up being 10 power as of right now. Huge value for them. But we have to be careful with how big they can potentially go in the left. We don't have any good value. I guess it's 20. So that's a big lift in this lane. We can go Sasquatch, Elsa Bloodstone, Kitty Pride. They can only do a singular Surfer, so 2, 4, 6. 6 extra to 15. So I actually don't think we need the Elsa. We can do Kitty Pride and then throw down Grapple and Basic, which is only 1 extra in the left lane, but maybe valuable. Maybe we can do 2 extra if we do the Kitty Pride over here. Basic arrow here, Grapple arrow left. Or if we want to get really fancy. So 2, 4, 6 goes to 15. We can do Grapple, Basic arrow, pulls it over into Kitty Pride left. And we're pushing as much over to the left as we can, hoping that they can't beat this lane. So the speed comes down, the Surfer comes down. It is going to be a big 14 power in the left, but that is not going to be quite big enough. Once we have everything shift over, the Grapple arrow, the Basic arrow getting pulled over the Kitty Pride, giving us that little bit of comfort and extra clearance in the lane. We knew that they didn't have at least a 7, so we were able to grab a little bit more wiggle room, knowing that we could win mid with what they could do and then focus on the left instead. We'll take the 2. Let's jump over into the next. All right, next up we have Captain Salami. The first location is Bar with No Name, which is not fantastic for us. Maybe we get Nocturne eventually and we have that mind game of, are we going to turn it off or are we not? We do start with the Kitty Pride. Washington, D.C. comes down into mid. We get our speed with the quickness. We can do Mysterio, which will help discount our Mockingbird dramatically. They go with the good old Jeffrey in the Bar with No Name. He's protected. He's safe there. We can go speed. They snap into the Crimson Cosmos. So we have both Mockingbird and Sasquatch that we can use over there. I think we go Mysterio, Kitty Pride. That makes our Mockingbird 4. We can do Sasquatch over there. And then the following turn, maybe Mockingbird plus Kitty Pride. Curious what the snap is over. Maybe could be a Legion, but Legion's not ran outside of Arishem all that often. Maybe they have a Hood. Ooh. Killmonger. Okay. Killmonger hurts a bit. I'll admit it. So we can go. I was just going to do speed, but they talked me out of it with that snap. Unfortunately. So we do have the Nocturne now, but I think we go Mockingbird. And then we'll see if we're able to use all of our energy next. And so the Sentry comes down. We are looking at the Annihilus or Cersei line. And so both very scary. They could also potentially just rip this one away with a Hood. And so we have to be mindful of that possibility and that reality as well. Let's go Nocturne Dina. And we're going to make it where they're uncertain if they can solo the Bar with No Name lane with just a Hood. I assume we see either Cersei or Annihilus come down and either push the Void or keep it there. Not really sure which. It is the Annihilus line from Captain Salami with a sick split. Annihilus is just not a card that I was ever able to feel comfortable getting behind. We could do something like Sasquatch here. We move the Nocturne, throw Kate Bishop here. We're pressuring mid, pressuring right, pressuring left. And I think that is going to be enough to potentially steal these 4 cubes away. The Annihilus was big. It hurts with the Void, but we already had Mockingbird value. We're going to have Sasquatch value on top of it, and then we've already developed the rest of the board. And so, sorry, Speedster. I know that you are looking stacked at 9 power in the left, but it is what it is. They move their Jeff over. They play a card in mid. They play a card in left. Let's see if either one is able to outscale what we can do. The Hood over in Fogwell's gym is what they were looking to do to sneak that one away. It is not going to be enough. They go Cersei, the Hobgoblin sticks, the Captain Marvel sticks, which could have been marvelous had they scaled a little bit higher anywhere. But since they did not, we are able to hold down the entire casserole. We'll take the lasagna. We'll take it home. We will take the 4. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Cicatiro, which I think is Dexter, if I remember right, from last night's stream. So we'll see what Dexter is cooking. The Mystique is unfortunate. We get the upside of the Mockingbird, but unless they have like an Arnim Zola or Odin to re-trigger the Mystique, they are going to be without. We have the Kate Bishop that we can throw down. Next turn might end up being Elsa. Maybe. Depends on what we end up drawing. The U.S. Agent does negatively afflict our Mockingbird. No longer within Shang-Chi range, which is great for us. We can do Angela Acid Arrow. Next turn, something like maybe just Gwynpool, maybe just like an Elsa and a Grapple Arrow. We'll see. We'll see what they end up playing here and see if we're able to overshoot it. The Mobius, we don't have any card cost reductions, which thankfully we don't. We can go Elsa Grapple Arrow. I think we call that good. And then maybe we sacrifice the Gwynpool. Sacrificing Gwynpool feels wrong and right at the same time, because we can potentially ramp up our Mysterio. I think that's what we're going to lean into. And then with the big Grapple Arrow, we get a pretty big surge, a big 17 power. So with Man-Thing, that brings us down to 9. If they have a Luke Cage, that brings them back up by 4. And so then they'll still be behind by 1 in this lane, which, thank goodness. We could go Gwynpool and sacrifice it. We could also go Real Mysterio, sacrifice the other one, and then throw down Speed, which would bring us up to a 7 power Speed. But I kind of like the idea of sacrifice Gwynpool into a surprise last turn. So they don't know which direction we're focusing on. They don't know which direction we're going. And that is what we're going to go with. We dodged the Mysterio on all fronts, unfortunately. They do go Magic, so we sacrificed the Gwynpool in vain for nothing, unfortunate as that may be. We have the Mysterio, we have Speed, we have Thena. Let's go Hope Summers. Let's go Good Guy Speed into maybe Sasquatch next turn. Sasquatch would end up being 4. We wouldn't be able to use all of our energy. We'll see. So they have a speed of their own. They're going for the quickness. The Luke Cage comes in. A big Hazmat could throw us for a loop. I forgot that they have the Mobius. And so when I thought of no card cost reductions, I forgot the big Mobius line. How unfortunate of me. Had we played Speed into Hope Summers, we could do Sasquatch Athena, Sasquatch Mysterio, and we have a lot more flexibility than what we have and we're finding ourselves in right now. But unfortunately, it's not fantastic. Let's hope and a prayer. I guess a Hazmat is going to win it for him. So the Ravona coming in. The Iron Lad with the prayer hitting Howard the Duck is not going to end up doing it. We will grab the 2 cubes. I'm very curious what the rest of Dexter's build is here. Maybe it's a Spectrum, and they were digging for the Spectrum and it ended up being on the bottom. A Spectrum would have completely ruined us, but we were able to grab the 2 probably by sheer luck, but sometimes we take sheer luck. Next up, we have Will Stribling. The first location is the Dark Dimension. We have our Angela, we have our Athena, we have our Elsa, and we are going against a surprise Arishem build. Unfortunate as that may be, Arishem is very, very common. I'm hoping that Mirror Dimension picks up and takes the Space Throne. That would be the most ideal outcome for us. Let's go ahead and lock this in. I do think they know that that is a potential line, and so they're probably stacking left early, just in case it ends up being a negative location. Cloning Vats is going to be interesting. Let's do Athena into Kitty Pryde, or do we ever Elsa Bloodstone into Elsa plus Kitty Pryde into Kitty Pryde into Kitty Pryde and then spread them across? You could also go with the Gwynpool line, but I do like the idea of the double Elsa bonus on everything that we're capping out a location in. And I'm going to make them have to sweat that Mirror Dimension that much harder here. So we're going to snap into it. The left either becomes Cloning Vats or Space Throne. I personally am rooting for the Space Throne. And so they have a Hawkeye coming down, which whenever a card gets played there, it's going to start scaling. But they only copy right now the 3 power. If they play it again, they'll copy the increased one. Unfortunate Cloning Vats is what sticks. We can go with this. That's going to allow our Kitty Pryde to start scaling dramatically here. And then maybe we throw another Elsa Bloodstone over into the left Cloning Vats into our Kitty Pryde. And we're just looking to have at some point, a big copy of them so that we can double up on it. They did snap. I think next turn it might end up being something like Elsa to the left Kitty Pryde in mid so that we can alleviate some of the concern of Kitty Pryde not bouncing back into our hand. But we'll see. They do go with a second Hawkeye, and then in the left lane they go with Typhoid Mary, which is big for them. Maybe they have an Enchantress to knock it out. I'd be curious. We get the copy of the 6-power Kitty Pryde. We still have space right now for ours to pull in, but we don't have space for a draw. And so I think an Elsa Bloodstone into a Kitty Pryde, that's going to leave us with 3, 4, 5, 6. It pulls back in at 7. And the triple Elsa should power this one up in this lane. I guess we could also do another Kitty Pryde left. And just have a Pride of Kitties, because that one's going to pull in. This one would pull in, or this one will copy. This one will pull in before this one. And so we'll pull into the higher base power one. Or we just don't really care if any of them pull back in. We go Kitty Pryde, go another copy of a Kitty Pryde, because we are going into the final turn. So maybe that's the line we go with. We'll see. We'll see. Eliath comes in, and so I'd be Eliathing to you if I didn't say I was a little disappointed to see the Fart Cloud. But we do still copy into the 13-power Kitty Pryde, and so even though it can't pull back in, we didn't have space for it to pull back into anyways, and so that is perfectly fine. We have another Kitty Pryde, which will get capped out here. We have big Kitty Pryde here. Maybe it goes... maybe it goes Elsa Bloodstone, big Kitty Pryde, big Kitty Pryde, and we lock it in. Shadow King, Killmonger, Shadow King, Killmonger, Shang-Chi could hurt us quite a bit, but we do go last. They have initiative. So we'll see. They could do the big Eliath into the left lane. They cancel out one of our Elsa Bloodstones. I don't think it's going to be quite enough, as long as the Kitty Pryde in mid scales like it should, because it's going to act like a Dazzler. With that being the lane, it caps it out. And this one, it should be the same thing. We do end up forcing the 4-cube retreat against the Eliath player, against the Eliath Arishem player. The Pride of Kitties and the Elsa Bloodstones were just scaling and high rolling too dramatically. We'll take it.